From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello and very Merry Christmas, everyone. I'm Jamie Hickson, joined by my brother on the phone.
Oh wait, let me do this. The hardest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV, the one and only, the man who tells the truth and nothing but the truth. So Merry Christmas to all. Live and taped at the same time, we are here to present you the sports of all sports, telling you that the mighty Knicks defeated the Atlanta Hawks.
Big deal.
If they played like this, they would be a really damn good team. What happened in that game that they played so well?
Well, it's simple. They caught the Hawks at a time when they were slumping badly. Trae Young is going through a bit of a phase of his own, and the Knicks were able to get themselves a victory, as well they should have. The Hawks are a lousy team as well, one of the worst teams in the league, and quite frankly, the Knicks should have beaten the Hawks.
But does that mean that the Knicks have actually good players?
No, it means that the Hawks got caught in a bad slump at the wrong time.
That they actually showed that if they played like a team, they could actually win games? Did they show like they played as a team and they could actually win games? Of course they did. Because if they were as bad, then they wouldn't have gotten blown out like the Hawks did if they were as bad as you claim that they are. Now, yes, they are at the bottom of the barrel. But at least we know one person that wanted to be a Knick but did not go to, which was A.D. A.D. actually wanted to be Anthony Davis, wanted to be a New York Knick. We have always said that nobody wanted to play for the New York Knicks. Now, until I see it happen, I'm not going to believe it because words are words. But Anthony Davis did say that he did want to be traded to the Knicks, if possible, that was one of his cuts. So, what do you think of that?
I think he's delusional, first of all, and second of all, if he really wants to make his star shine a little brighter and or win a championship, why would he consider making his way here? He's got everything great right now with the Lakers. He's playing with another superstar. He's playing with much better role players, and he's playing with a very underrated head coach who pretty much has been on the back burner because his stars have been practically taking over.
And I'll say this, maybe because he wants to have his own team named after him. Because there are some players that want to take charge and go, you know what? I want this to be my team. I don't want nobody else around me. I want to be the number one guy.
Well, in order for that to happen, it takes quite a few years for somebody to assume that a team is their own. Last time I checked, the team belonged to the general manager and the head coach.
No, but if you say to a team, if you say to someone, the Lakers, who does the Lakers belong to? What face do they put on there? Do they put on the general manager's team, or do they put LeBron James' face on there before Anthony Davis got there?
For as long as this guy has still been around, the face has always been Magic Johnson's team.
Right, but when LeBron is there, forget Magic for a moment because he's not playing. When LeBron is there, all the news media go, LeBron versus whoever. Then they'll go LeBron and the Lakers versus whomever. The Clippers with whomever. That's how they set it up. They don't set it up by Lakers versus the Clippers. They set it up by LeBron and LeBron and Lakers versus the Clippers and whomever. If you notice that. So there's always Trae Young. Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks versus blah, blah, blah. Oh, better yet, Trae Young and the Hawks versus A.J. Barrett and the New York Knicks.
That's R.J. Barrett.
Okay, R.J. Barrett. But they do that because they have to put a face with the team.
That's the problem. The Knicks don't have a face of the franchise right now.
Right now is R.J. Barrett.
It's not R.J. Barrett.
Yes, it is.
They don't have a face of the franchise. There is no one on that roster that you can say has taken over to be the face of the franchise.
But you see,
it's not like what it was when Patrick was around all those years ago.
You're not looking at the
commercials. Give me a break.
You're not looking at the commercials.
I don't need to look at the commercials. See, that's the problem.
You're not looking at the media to see what they're doing. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, look at what the media has done.
See, this is the problem. They're trying to put a face on a franchise, and they're looking at the wrong guy right now. If anything, they should be looking at that slime of an owner who's put his grubby hands on that franchise for over 20 years.
Yes, the news have quoted him, and Charles Barkley has gotten them, and so on. Yes, they have all done that too. But what I'm saying is, and this is true, Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks versus R.J. Barrett and the New York Knicks. Why?
And I don't know why Trae Young is being classified as the face of the Hawks right now.
Right.
Since when have the Hawks ever had a guy that they call a real franchise player, aside from Dominique Wilkins?
Since Dominique Williams? That's about it. Oh, Spud Webb.
Oh, please, Spud Webb, give me a break. Yeah. Spud Webb was practically riding Dominique's coattails all those years.
You asked me a question, and I gave you an answer. You just don't like the answer.
It's not that I don't like the answer. It's that we're looking at the wrong people.
It's like right now when Carmelo Anthony was there. It was Carmelo Anthony and the New York Knicks versus whomever. It was Porzingis versus whomever. You got to realize and look at these things. It's not whether I like it or not. It's just the truth is there. The media is good for certain things, and the media is damaging in others. For God's sakes, look at it, man.
I'm looking at it quite fine, and all I'm seeing right now is that they're picking guys, the wrong guys, to be the face of the franchise.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just that they need to distinguish someone, especially R.J. Barrett, because he was second in the pick, he was third in the pick. He was very good when he played. He should have been number one. If Zion Williams didn't show up on the team, he would have been number one if he wasn't drafted. So at this point in time, this is what you get. And they always want to put a face on a team.
If you're going to put a face on a team, that's assuming that you're going to make that person the savior. Trae Young is not a savior. R.J. Barrett is not a savior.
They just if they could make them better,
not by themselves. Not by themselves.
Sometimes it just takes one player. Look at Michael Jordan. Look at LeBron. He makes
Hector. Those guys were with the exceptions. Michael and LeBron are two special players that very rarely come around in any generation or lifetime.
Even what's his name out of Patuku or whatever. I can't pronounce his name very well, but even him, he's even though they got a good team behind him, but if it wasn't for him, how good would the team be without him? And even him, even that dude that I'm saying, the first thing they'll say is that boy's name, that guy's name, and the team.
I get that.
Okay,
but they are looking at the wrong person.
They just want to put a face to a team, man.
They just want to handpick a face and make them the savior. You can't just handpick a guy and make them the savior. It's the equivalent of covering your eyes and pointing.
Now, if Anthony Davis would have came, here's what have happened to him.
He probably would have gotten hurt again like he did all those years with the Pelicans.
Probably. With the Knicks' luck, yeah, probably. But let's say he didn't get hurt. The only thing that I can say that if he wanted to come on the team, you would hope that he would bring others, that other good players would want to play on the Knicks, since he's on there, since they want to play with, like the way people want to play with LeBron James. I don't know anymore, because the way his reputation's been lately, his reputation hasn't been the greatest either. But there are people that want to play with people. They've gotten into that little habit, as you know. Two teams got two superstars now. Every two teams. And if they don't get traded, look what just happened. Kyrie Irving.
Where's he been in all this? Oh, yeah, the injured list.
We already knew that he was going to be on the injured list. They knew it. They took a chance on him.
And I find it really coincidental that ever since he got placed on IR, his team has actually played a little bit better.
Well, figure out why. I mean, is it because he demands the ball more? Is it because he's not passing more? I mean, is his defense
you
that
just
lax?
answered your own question. He is always demanding the ball, and very rarely do I see him hit the open man. Whereas with a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie, he'll score his amount of points, yet he's always distributing the ball to the right man, to the open man, and also creating dribble penetration opportunities for himself and for others. He's a real shot creator.
And wait till KD comes out. Then you're really going to have a problem with the ball handling, because he wants the ball too. And if he comes back in great shape, then you're fine. But if he doesn't come back in great shape, do the Nets hit themselves in the head by going, you know what, I made a mistake?
They're not going to admit that. They knew that they were going to make a play for each of these two guys. Even though they haven't worked together yet, they're going to have to try and somehow make it work. Knowing how these two alpha males are, they're going to work their best at trying to solve this thing.
I'm curious. You follow college basketball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's right now the top 3 or the top 5 players that should be coming out? That you think that are, let me put it this way, that you think that are going to come out?
Before he got hurt, I would have said Cole Anthony from North Carolina. He is a really special point guard who can create shots for himself and for teammates, and he is really ballsy. But now he wound up hurting his knee, and we're not really sure what he's going to be for the springtime. Another kid that I would have looked at maybe would have been Miles Powell from Seton Hall, but now he has a concussion. We don't know how long he's going to be out either. Other than that, those are the only 2 kids that I can think of that can really be looked at as lottery picks.
Well, you got Ball, too, but he's not in college, but he's still playing, but he's hurt, too.
Bol from, I think...
No, not Ball, Lamar, not Lamar Ball. Oh, the Ball family. B-A-L.
You're probably talking about LaMelo Ball, right?
Yeah, LaMelo Ball.
He's over in Australia right now.
Yeah, but he's also hurt too. So
he hurt his foot, and he's going to be out about 3 or 4 weeks.
So that's going to be actually really hard to decide. Well, again, we're just speculating, but we're hoping that one of these people can help out the New York Knicks.
Yep.
Because they do need, they do need a point guard. Now, look at all the rumors that have been going around with the Knicks on who players want to get. Some people want Dennis Smith Jr. Some people want Marcus Morris. There's a lot of teams that want these players that are on the Knicks team. But if they're going to get these players, you either trade them for number 1 picks or number 2 picks, or you try to make a combination to get a better player. Now, would I risk it to get Kevin Love? No, because you're not set to win yet.
Yeah, he made it loud and clear that he wants to play for the Trailblazers. I'm not really sure how much the Blazers can give up for this guy, but if they could make a deal happen, more power to them.
Yeah, because he's not set up to win. He's not set up to win. He's got to win now.
Yeah.
He's got to win now. He doesn't have that much basketball in him left, especially with all his injuries too.
Mm-hmm.
But if the Knicks could be smart for a change and do something and make a package for someone actually worthy or worth it, then fine. You'll take a contract and so on. Now, we talked before about giving up two number ones to getting that general manager from
Masai Ujiri.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. Because the Raptors, I can guarantee you they're going to do all they can to try and keep this guy. He's a brilliant, brilliant guy. He's turned 3 lousy teams into contenders. He worked for the Nuggets, he worked for the Washington Wizards, and now the Raptors. Do you know that Masai Ujiri was actually fired from the Denver Nuggets for some strange reason? We'll never ever know what the reason is, but somehow he had the balls to make that deal for Kawhi Leonard, and it resulted in a championship. And he did all he could to try and re-sign Leonard as well, but Leonard made it clear he was going to go back home to California to play for the Clippers. So all he can do is try and move on, and that's exactly what he's done, is move on. Now, he's had some rather comfortable ownership in Toronto that he's been working for. Not only that, but there's that international flavor that the Raptors have, not just on their players, but with Ujiri, because he was born in London. So, what can he possibly do to working for an owner who is notorious for sticking his nose in other people's business, who's notorious for keeping these people on a long leash? What could he possibly do to try and turn the tide with the Knicks in the event that he were to be interviewed first, offered the job second, and accept the job third? He's not working with much right there. If anything, he's got it really good in Toronto.
Yeah, but here's what he got to work with. Believe it or not, he's in a decent position. He's not in a very bad position. He's in a decent position. Because remember, those contracts that the Knicks signed, like Marcus Morris and them, they could be traded away very quickly.
Yeah, but it's not a matter of expiring contracts. It's a matter of who's going to be making their way over here.
Let me finish. Then you got those number 1 and number 2 picks that the Knicks have for this year and next year. So it's not like they don't have picks.
And we don't know what those picks are going to turn into.
Again, we all figure on that they'll turn to the greatest ball player of all time. You got to shine that nugget once in a while. But sometimes you have to take a risk, just like everybody else in the league does. So you're hoping that this guy, if he knows what he's doing properly, that there are teams willing to work with him and go, okay, listen, you've got about 2 number 1 draft choices. I want to move up in, let's say, in the ladder. We'll give you we'll give you our number 1 and 2 number 1s later on. there are deals to be made. And around that time frame, if they hire him before the draft pick, then he's got a good shot of getting good ball players and doing certain things that could help the way, and probably in 2 or 3 years, get something really good out of this team. I say 2 or 3 years because I like to give. I don't think that there are very few times that you can say that a team in 1 year can change that quickly, unless the team's already built to win, or unless you have some type of miracle that year where everybody's playing properly, they're playing team ball, they're doing everything right. What team have you known that went from last to first in 1 year in basketball?
In basketball?
I say it takes about 3 years, 3 to 4.
That's
but
a
you've
good
never
question.
you've never seen a basketball team go from worst to first unless they're ready to win. So, if this guy comes in with all these draft picks plus these expiring contracts, he can do some damage to the point where he can make the Knicks a team. If he's allowed to do what he's supposed to do, and our great beloved owner doesn't stick his rear nose in it. If he sticks his nose into it, then don't even bother. But if he doesn't sticks his nose in it and gets full autonomy, like Phil Jackson did supposedly, then you know what? Let him do what he's got to do. He can't do any worse than what happened before him. He's not going to do any worse.
The only team that I could think of that went worst to first in the NBA was the Celtics.
But were they ready to win? Were they ready to win, or were they just?
All it took was a
bad
Kevin
players?
Garnett trade, and the Celtics won the title the following year.
Look at that.
But that's because the Celtics practically robbed the Timberwolves of Garnett because of the returning players that they wound up getting.
Yeah, they got a lot of players and a lot of draft choices, and the way the Nets look at the way the Nets were built too. The Nets were built with draft choices and so forth. There wasn't. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can answer this better than I can. But how many did they deal for? How many players did they deal for?
How many players did the Celtics deal for?
No, did the Nets deal for in this round that we have? Because last year they were real good. It took them 5 years before they made it to the playoffs. So did they do that through the draft, or did that through flipping with teams, taking teams, other players?
Let's see. If I'm not mistaken, this past season, well, the Nets didn't have a first-round pick.
Right.
The second rounder that they got, Nicholas Claxton from Georgia, has proven to be a pretty decent rookie for them. So right now, this year's number one draft pick, I know, wound up being sent away in a deal that was done in the past. So other than that, not really sure what to tell you.
But from what you remember, was it through the draft that they did most of their things, or did they do it through team, going through teams and saying, okay, we pick your guy and so forth? I forgot how to do that. Through trades.
Some of it was through trades, yes. For example, the Nets wound up, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Nets wound up getting Karis LeVert in 2015, I think it was. through a deal that was made with one of the teams. Let's see, Jared Allen. I think Jared Allen might have been the Nets' own pick. And then after that, there was Rodi Korix and Zanan Musa. Other than that, I would say maybe 70% of it was deals with somebody else, and the remaining 30% was their own draft picks. And in these deals, they wound up getting some draft picks in return.
So you see, I'm sure if Messiah is that, with his reputation, I'm sure they're going to want to deal with him. So yeah, if he's as good as they say he claims, yeah, he could do something. Is he going to improve the team within a year? He probably can, but can he make them a championship within a year? No, I don't think so, but it could happen. But I say within 3 years. Give the guy 3 years, and if you don't see any improvement, then you got to get rid of him. But most people stay for 3 or 4 years, which is mostly good, because 3 or 4 years but you have to see some type of improvement each year. They can't always be, okay, the first 2 years are in last place, but how good did they play? Mm-hmm. Was it close games, or were they blowouts mostly?
Right.
How did they finish? Who screwed up on you? Who did this and who did that? Who coughed up the ball more? That's the guy that you got to replace. So if you do little parts like that, then you can make your team better. Yeah. All teams do that. So like I said, if this guy is as good as he is with his reputation, he can come there and do something, because the other two guys signed guys and kept their draft picks, which is the smartest thing they've done. Mm-hmm. It was unbelievable, because normally the New York Knicks, what do they normally do? They would sign Amari Stoudemire for 3 years again, if they could, or 4 years.
Yep.
These are the old Knicks. These, to me is a little bit of the new Knicks, because their ages are from 1 to still 24. They got about 2 or 3 30-year-olds, but their average is between, let's say, 19 to 24, let's say, the average team, the average ball player in that team. Everybody else is 30 or whatever, but they're not going to be there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they did good. You just got to get someone with a smart business sense to go, okay, I can mold this team. Now, who wants to work with Dolan? That's a whole different issue. But, again, somebody like him or anybody else, I mean, isn't it kind of shady that you bring in David Platt?
David Blatt to be a consultant?
Yeah,
yes,
Blatt
it is very shady. It's extremely shady, and we're not really sure what this is going to mean for Mike Miller, who's now the interim head coach. If he starts winning a lot of games, does that make him a candidate for next year? But again, it all depends who the GM is. Because if it's Messiah, he may not want David Blatt. He may want to pick his own dude. Because most GMs normally do that. There's definitely a possibility that if he's able to make things at least respectable, that he would be brought back. At the same time, though, what purpose is David Blatt serving? I mean, he's being brought on to be a consultant, but what's he consulting about, and who is he consulting for?
Well, who's the coach of the Lakers again?
John Kuster.
And who's his assistant coach? Jason Kidd?
Yep.
Now, he's smelling. He's waiting for that guy to score, because he wants to coach so bad, the Lakers. Because he wants to win. He's shady, too.
Yep.
Especially what he did, trying to get the Nets center, trying to trade for him to go into his team before he got fired. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's done some shady things, but he's a damn good coach.
Right.
But doesn't that taste shady to you, that you got Jason Kidd, an ex-coach, Maybe he needs a job because he loves basketball. Okay, fine. But this guy has done a couple of things where he would step on. Maybe I'm wrong. This is just an assumption that he would do anything to be a coach on a winning team like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, what do you think?
You're speaking of Blatt, or are you speaking of Miller?
I'm speaking of Miller with Jason Kidd being on the Lakers team.
Well, keep in mind, Mike Miller is the interim coach of the Knicks now, and John Kuster is the head coach of the Lakers. But I thought it was really curious that the Lakers hired Jason Kidd not to be the head coach, but to be an assistant head coach or the associate head coach. Exactly what was the Lakers' motivation in trying to bring in Kidd to work with a guy like Kuster? Something's really fishy right there.
Maybe to give him experience, because remember, not that Joe Torre needed experience, but he had, what's his name? Popeye.
Mm-hmm. He had Don Zimmer, the late, great Don Zimmer.
He had Don Zimmer, who had plenty of experience on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're a young coach, you really need that experience.
Exactly right.
You really do. So you need to rely on your coaches for them to decide certain things, and then you're the final decision. But what happened to Luke Walton? Didn't he have...
He's in Sacramento now.
I know, but what was the difference from then and now? What happened?
It's
Wasn't
simple.
he a
The Lakers
good coach?
I
he
guess
a good coach
not.
for that team?
I guess not. But he also did not have the luxury of LeBron playing for him. LeBron actually missed about 25 to 30 games last season, so that played a lot into the Lakers' hands. But other than that, Walton's now in Sacramento, and curiously, he's actually doing a better job with the Kings than he did for the Lakers the last 3 or 4 years.
So, who do they have that they're doing so well?
Who do the Lakers have?
No, who is Walton coaching?
He's coaching in Sacramento.
Sacramento. Now, who do they have? Just for the people that don't know.
Well, there's Buddy Held, who's a really good shooter. De'Aaron Fox, who's an outstanding athlete and really scary at creating shots to the basket. Also, a real plethora of young players that the Kings have at their disposal.
And how about the rest of this? How about the rest of the league? How is they doing?
Well, the rest of the league is going well. I would say that right now things are pretty much going according to form. Just recently there was a matchup of the best teams in the NBA, the Bucks and the Lakers, and the Bucks wound up winning that game by, I think, 7 points.
Well, you predicted that if they did go to a playoff run, that the Milwaukee would win.
Mm-hmm. And right now, things are pretty much going according to form. Milwaukee is still the best team in the East. Then there's Boston. And then there's the Miami Heat, which not only has Jimmy Butler, but some really good young players at their disposal. Justice Winslow, Kelly Olynyk, and a couple of guys that they brought up from the G League who've played some great basketball themselves. And, of course, there's one of their draft picks also, Bam Adebayo, who's a terrific shot blocker. Goran Dragic, a very underrated point guard. Tyler Herro, another really good young player who's given them a lot of important minutes. James Johnson, Myers Leonard. And all of this being done without the now suspended Dion Waiters, who once again had to act like a little brat when it came to trying to get the ball at a certain amount of time. And then after that, there's Toronto. Toronto, which is the defending champion, they've fallen to fourth place now in the Eastern Conference. Then there's Philadelphia, which is sunk all the way down to fifth place so far. And they've had a couple of guys in and out because of injuries. Then there's Indiana, which has played reasonably well. There's also the Brooklyn Nets, who've been very, very up and down lately. And eighth place has been a real flip-flop between Orlando and Charlotte.
Now, who's your underdog? Who's your underdog team that should make it? Should make it to the playoffs?
That should make it to the playoffs? Maybe I shouldn't call them an underdog because they've got a real superstar player leading the way for them, but the way Miami has been playing this year, they are someone who cannot be taken lightly.
Because they weren't supposed to make the playoffs at all, if I remember correctly, just because they got Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, they were looked at to be maybe a sub-500 team, but he has played his best basketball of his entire career right now, and don't be surprised if you see Miami make a big run down the road.
Do you think it's because he's the man?
It's definitely
that team. He's
part
the
of it is
face
because
of that franchise.
Part of it is because he's the man. I mean, they've been looking for a go-to scorer, and Butler's been the guy. And when he's been a little out of reach, some of their role players like Adebayo and Dragic and Harrow and James Johnson and Derek Jones Jr. and also Kelly Olynyk, they've been stepping in and picking up the slack for these guys.
Now, how about in the other divisions?
Western Division is all Lakers right now. Then after that, there's the Clippers.
By how much? Would you know? By how much?
As of this show, they've been 24-5, and they're 3.5 games ahead of the next closest competitors, which just so happen to be the Clippers.
Wow.
Then after that, Denver's played well. Houston's played well. Dallas has played very well, especially with Luka Doncic running the show with Kristaps Porzingis. Utah's played reasonably well, although now they're going to be missing Mike Conley because of injury. And then after that, Oklahoma City, which has been very, very up and down this year, just barely has 7th place. And then after that, of all teams, the Sacramento Kings wind up having 8th place in the West.
Now, who do you see as the underdog?
As the underdog of the Western Conference?
Yes, the Sacramento Kings.
They probably could because they have a lot of pieces that could really help them make a big run. We also failed to mention that Trevor Ariza, a guy who's won a championship with the Lakers and has bounced around with so many teams, is now one of their guys. There's also Marvin Bagley III, who's a good big man. Bogi Bogdanovic, who's a very solid player. Yogi Ferrell, who's bounced around with a few teams. Also, Caleb Swanigan, who's a decent big man. Rashawn Holmes, another decent big man. And Nemanja Bjelica, who's really supplied a lot of three-point shooting with them.
What about in the other divisions? Because there's more sections. There's 4, right? Yeah, there are 4 sections.
Well, there's the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference.
Right. Oh, so there are only 2 conferences. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, because I was thinking, I mean, the Hawks.
The Hawks have really taken a downward spiral. You know, some people actually thought that they could contend for a playoff spot this year. I did not see this at all. Atlanta is woeful. And it really doesn't matter if Trae Young is on the team or not. I mean, they have a hodgepodge of guys that really seem to be out of place with the team.
Well, they had this other guy they drafted last year too. That was a big name. That was supposed to be the 1-2 punch.
You're probably thinking of John Collins.
Yeah.
Yep.
was
John
supposed to be him.
Collins is a serviceable big man. There's also Cam Reddish, who's a very good two-way player. Excuse me.
So
Also, Vince Carter has joined the team for a second straight year to supply some veteran leadership for the team.
and he's saying goodbye.
There's also Chandler Parsons, who's been around the block more than once. Evan Turner, who's a good swing man. For some reason, they just cannot seem to put it together. My guess is they probably have a little bit of an issue with defense.
They can't. Do you think they can pull it together,
Oh,
or
no.
is it just that they just need more players, or they need a coach that can do something? Which one?
What they really do need is a secondary scorer. Trae Young has been able to supply the majority of the scoring for them. I mean, he already has I think a 50-point game this season. But he has got to get that secondary guy in there.
So that's what's going on. And you got a lot. You got one more division, I would say, and there's 3, there's 4, but I'm just saying that we covered the Eastern with the Hawks and so on, and it's a lot. It's a lot because that Western Division is so stacked with superstars.
Mm-hmm.
They got that 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
It's hard, and sometimes I can see people. And my reasoning sometimes is, if you're a good player, you come to the Eastern Division. At least you know you're gonna. If you're a damn good player and you can bring someone else, you can make it to the playoffs quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how far can you make it in the playoffs? That's a whole different ballgame. But the Western Division is going to kill you.
Yeah.
Because that Western Division is too damn stacked.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, sometimes I go, yeah, I could understand why people would go to the Eastern Division. And like you said, why other people would go to the Western Division, because you say that they want more competition. But if you go to the Eastern Division, you have a better chance at making the playoffs better than you do the Western Division, I would assume. So, that's just me talking, But all in all, let me ask you, again, Cespedes making the Mets or trade him. What do you do? Do you trade him or do you keep him?
Well, right now, the Mets are 5 deep in the outfield as it is. If they were to trade him, they would hope to get an outfielder in return, in addition to a prospect or two.
Yeah, but this is a guy that can hit a lot of home runs for you. Mm-hmm. And also, again, we're talking about if healthy, he could hit not only home runs for you, but look at the batting lineup they would have.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't count him out of the Mets lineup altogether. I mean, we've seen what kind of team the Mets could be with him in their lineup. He makes them better. So I would not be too quick to try and dump him immediately. He could probably help that team. But then again, he could help a lot of teams that are going to be needing outfield help from a guy who can also supply some power.
Yeah, because talking about Dylan Betances going to the Mets.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't look like he's returning to the Yankees anytime soon, which would be disappointing because he was a really effective reliever with the Yanks.
That's a damn shame. That's a damn shame. I'm sorry to say, but if you know that you're going to win, at least sign for a year. And if you know if you're going to win a World Series ring or have a chance to win, because you already been to this promised land not once but twice, and now that you got this ace, you're gonna win. You hope you should win.
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's right.
I mean, because we got this ace pitcher now,
Exactly right.
and all Cole, and then they're making the. Now, who would you rather have, Thor as your number one, or the other guy? I forgot the guy's Cole.
Oh, that's really tough right there. I mean, Thor and Cole are two guys that could really bring the heat on the mound. At the same time, Thor has had a few problems with injuries in the past, whereas Cole has been the more consistent and healthy starter.
Because the Mets GM is claiming that who really is number one? Is it Cole or Thor? If you go by statistics alone, you know they're bragging that, hey, no, wait a minute, we got the number one pitcher. But if you had the number one pitcher, why are you trying to trade him? You know.
Yeah.
If he's your number one, why are you trying to trade him? Unless you don't think you're going to make the playoffs or something of that nature, you know. But that's a whole different story because he's still on the contract. But the Mets, like I said, the Mets starting lineup. If you pick the Mets starting lineup and the Yankees starting lineup, who would you rather have?
Well, let's see. As far as the Mets are concerned, defensively, I would have Peter Alonso at first. I would say maybe...
Who's got the edge in the team?
Who's got the edge? The Yankees, by far, have the edge over the Mets.
And on the field?
On the field, I think the Yankees have a slight edge over the Mets.
Hitting?
Infield and outfield. Hitting-wise, by far, the Yankees have the better hitting team. I mean, they were called savages for a reason, and that's because they were just mashing the ball left and right. They hit over 200 home runs last year.
Closing,
the Yankees definitely have the better closer.
Middle relief?
Middle relief, the Yankees definitely have better middle relief.
Here's a good one, starting pitching.
Slight edge to the Mets. Very slight edge. DeGrom is more proven. Syndergaard is just a fireballer like nobody's business. Steven Matz, I think, has potential. Marcus Stroman has had some solid seasons. As far as the Yankees are concerned, you combine Cole with James Paxton and Jay Happ and Luis Severino, and if he's available to start next season, Domingo Germán.
Tanaka, don't forget Tanaka.
And also Masahiro Tanaka.
So Cole's your first guy. Tanaka's your second.
Mm-hmm. Cole's the first guy. Tanaka's the second guy. Then after that, Paxton, Happ, Luis Severino.
They may trade one of them.
And, yeah.
They may trade Paxton.
Word has it that James Paxton or maybe even Jay Happ is going to be dealt. It'd be a real shame to lose one of them because that's a really powerful starting six that they have in their rotation. I still say the Mets pitching staff is better than the Yankees.
I agree. I really do agree. The starting five for the Mets are better than the starting five for the Yankees. But again, that's not now. Do you consider it because it's National League versus American League? Because American League have to work harder because of the DH.
Well, there's definitely something to that, yes. And having the DH has been a lot more of a luxury for teams in the American League than in the National League. They've been really calling for this designated hitter to be brought to the National League. That way they don't have to use pitchers at the plate no more. But I kind of like it, though, because it allows for them to show off some of the fundamentals that they learned on the job in practice.
What do you think of Tim Tebow making the Mets?
Boy, that would be a dream come true for the guy. He spent, 2 or 3 years already in the minor leagues? And I think he's supposed to be approaching Syracuse sometime next year. If he were to make the Mets, it would be interesting to see how he would do as a hitter. Athletically wise, I think he would have no problem. I think he could track down as many fly balls as he can, and I also think that he'd be able to leap at the wall and catch a few deep flies every now and then. But
well, he's got a good arm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a quarterback, so he can actually throw the damn ball.
He can throw. He's just not accurate.
Yeah, well. Yeah, okay, let me ask you this. Reportedly asked, Mets for Jeff McNeil in trade talks for Lindor.
Francisco Lindor is an all-star shortstop that no guy should ever take lightly. If anything, if the Mets can add him as their shortstop, of course, naturally, they'd have to do something with Ahmed Rosario. Either use him as trade bait in a possible deal with the Indians, or maybe convert him to one of the other places on the infield. Maybe convert him to second base. Who knows? Maybe convert him to center field. Who knows?
Because they're saying McNeil, who is under control through 2024, won't even hit arbitration until 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you make that trade?
I can never pass on an opportunity to take a guy like Lindor. Obviously, I would make that deal. The kid's just too good. And he can make somebody's lineup so much better.
One's that Carlos Correa. Basically, the Mets will look
Carlos
into
Correa
everything.
is another guy that the Mets and a whole bunch of other teams have been looking at.
These are guys that are young that could do something.
Mm-hmm.
That could actually do something. But some of these guys that they signed for 1 year, that's another thing to consider.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's something. With the guys that they signed, and let's say they keep the team as is,
Mm-hmm.
do you think they have a shot at the playoffs?
For the Mets to keep it as is?
If the Mets are as is, and they make one or two minor trades here and there, but all in all, how do you see them? Do you see them making the playoffs, or do you see them 500, or do you see them down at the bottom of the barrel?
The way they are right now, I'm not really sure it's enough for them to compete because that bullpen has been major problems for them, and they need to get some bullpen help in order to compete.
But they still haven't done anything yet?
Still have not done anything yet.
Except get those two pitchers for 1 year.
Mm-hmm. And they're both going to be in the starting rotation. So my guess, well,
is there anybody in the minor leagues that can come up and probably take the place in the bullpen?
They probably could bring up a couple of guys, yeah. I mean, looking at their roster as is right now, they could probably get somebody off the 40-man roster.
Because if they bring in this guy that we talked about, what good is Lindor if they don't have no pitching?
Then that's going to weaken things for them quite a bit.
Are they saying that we're good hitters that we don't need pitching?
I doubt they would be saying that. I doubt they would be saying that.
So, I mean, it's just amazing that you have. I think the Mets are a fun team.
They are a fun team.
They're a fun team.
They pitch well. They have their moments where they can maybe hit okay. Although right now, as constituted, I would definitely put another couple of bats in there because just Michael Conforto and Pete Alonso by themselves is not going to help out. I would say that they would need another slugger in there.
Well,
and,
if
and
they
this is
get
where,
one of these names,
yeah, and this is where Yoenis Cespedes' name becomes a major wild card because he can really add a lot of power for them. And if you trade him, that's taking away a lot from the batting order.
now let's say you keep Cespedes and you keep Lindor, and you get Lindor.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hell of a lineup.
Yes, it is. That would
If
make
everything
two
goes right.
great sluggers that can change a game for the Mets.
That's a hell of a lineup. And the Yankees, you know, is Jacoby Ellsbury having words?
Yeah, he wants his money. Quite honestly, there was just recently the Yankees wound up releasing Jacoby Ellsbury, and there was still a whole bunch of money that was left over on his deal, and basically he just wants to be able to collect what's left of his $24 million in salary.
Now, are they saying because he didn't play for so long that the insurance should be the one picking it up?
I think so, yeah.
Like they tried with Cespedes?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't a ball-related issue. It was him screwing it up on his ranch.
Yeah, exactly right.
And speaking of the New York Yankees, which team should he go fit better, Lindor? To the Yankees or to the Mets? Because there's also the Yankee trade.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees want Lindor as well.
Yeah. They want him to be their shortstop now that the Yankees have a major hole at shortstop.
Really?
Yeah, the Yankees have a major
hole?
They've got a major hole at shortstop now that Didi Gregorius is gone. And we don't know what they're going to do with Gleyber Torres, whether they're going to keep him at second base or maybe make him the shortstop. If they make him the shortstop, then that would fill the hole from within the organization. But if not, they're going to have to go cut a deal somewhere.
Because if not shortstop, they were going to get the guy from the Phillies. He's the utility man. I forgot his name, though, but
Gene Segura, maybe?
Yeah. He's Josh Harder trade won't be easy. Yankees and Brewers. Josh Harder trade.
Josh Hader, yeah. The Yankees
Hader.
are interested in the reliever from the A's, Josh Hader, which would be a pretty good shot in the arm for them. They could have him and Aroldis Chapman be like the double closer.
Jason Dominguez leads outfield to moving through the Yankee system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we still don't know who's playing first this year for the New York Yankees, because that's a toss-up.
Yeah.
You know, Ellsbury files grievance, but there hasn't been that many. They've tried small deals after the Cole trade. You can't top Cole.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the big names have gone to teams.
Yeah.
Like the Asian pitcher, he went to a team already.
Mm-hmm.
He went to where I forgot what team though. Do you recall?
I think I know who you're talking about. Let me see if I can.
He was with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And he went to some other. He signed with another team, and like I said, most of the major names are already signed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredible the amount of money that they received.
So true.
You know.
Well, unfortunately, we got 20 seconds left.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 1:52. All right. So, without further ado, Jamie, you have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
And I'll see you soon. And you're lucky you have me as a present. So that's my present to you, me.
Yeah, right. For everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.